All right, what's up, guys? Shea Bell, BB Sports here. We got a special guest today with Jake Stewart. Played at Stanford, Rocky here in Fort Collins too, and then went to the Detroit Tigers after that. So, Jake, thanks for joining us today.
Oh man, super fired up to be here.
Oh,
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I always love talking the game.
Yeah, Jake's one of my oldest friends. I mean, our dads grew up playing softball together, right? And so we've been running around on fields since, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, right?
Yeah, I think that was the birthplace of my outfielding days, was we stood outside the fence at Roland Moore and watched our dads hit bombs.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I remember those days for sure. I remember my brother getting hit with a softball out there, too. And my dad told him, hey, you can field out there, but there's no crying. And smoked right in the chest and just bawling. And one of his teammates is just going like this, so my dad doesn't see like him crying as he walks off the field. You know, that was good times.
It's all fun, right? All part of the fun.
Yeah, it was. And that built the passion right away, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, let's jump right into that a little bit, right? Passion. It's like huge. You have to have passion for the game. Otherwise, you're not going to make it to that next level, right?
Yes. So. Well, I don't know. This is where me and you could get fired up on this for hours and hours, I'm sure, right? But it's the best game there is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just such a fun game. It's different, It's not necessarily the footballs or basketballs where you can get away with being bigger, stronger, faster, and just there's so much that goes into the mental side and the game within the game, and the chess match of it all. So just kind of learning the start of it and, the frustrating part of it, right?
Yeah.
Getting through, what that looks like. Because, I mean, again, you look at some of those other sports and success rates, and by success rates, like field goal percentage or completion percentage or any of those things. And, the greatest of all time in baseball are failing 7 out of 10. It's a humbling game. It's a tough game.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, just that passion and getting that passion, from an early age. I mean, I think it helped the group that we grew up with. We were just
grew up with such a great group, right?
Such a great group, constantly doing something.
Yeah.
Playing outside. I mean, going to Al's for wiffle ball. I felt like wiffle ball was our entire childhood. Every tournament we went to was finding a place to play wiffle ball.
Yeah.
Doing anything, just getting out and playing and having fun. And I mean, we all, our whole crew growing up did everything. We were throwing the football, playing basketball, messing around, doing anything we could just to get out and mess with each other. But
wiffle ball, 3v3 basketball, like anything. Wall ball, for crying out loud, right? So, and that group we grew up with was talented for some of those reasons, right? Very passionate about the game, but also played multiple sports. Like, grew up learning different motor patterns, right?
Yes.
And we're just having fun playing 3v3 basketball.
Yeah.
But we're practicing how to cut left and right.
Oh, yeah.
Move around.
And that, I still think the best drill I ever did as an outfielder was play wide receiver in football.
Yes, absolutely.
I returned punts, same thing, returning kickoffs. I mean, any of that was the best, and then it was amazing. I felt like every year I thought that, football, you always get like the most in shape. It's bulking season, heavy Olympic lifts. And then I'd go to basketball, and all of a sudden I figured out that I had like 30 muscles that I didn't know about during the football season, because now everything was sore that was not sore at all in football.
Yeah, you're cutting and moving.
Yeah, you're moving all the different stuff and playing around. But I mean, it was so much fun, and it was such a fun crew, like you were saying, just from that regard of we wanted to do everything. We were very close.
Yep.
That helped us push each other.
And, very competitive.
Fight, like brothers, right? But, had a lot of that. But just bring out that competitive nature and that competitive fire.
Oh, man, that group was so competitive.
So competitive.
It's like no matter what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I remember, Al and certain people are getting into fist fights over it. And we're like,
but it was ping pong, or it was, whatever we were doing. It was a battle.
Nobody wanted to lose.
Nobody wanted to lose. But we all, again, it was just like the level of athletic nature, right? It was a really good group of athletes.
Yeah.
And so, spending as much time as we did, like 300 days a year together.
Yeah.
And then pushing each other and going into it started with soccer, track, basketball, football, baseball, anything we could do just to get outside or indoor sports and racquetball and dodgeball. Pillow polo, that was still my favorite game in PE. It's that little, you had to look like the Q-tip and you'd whack that big softball.
Whack the softball and stuff. We usually just went
hit
into,
each other.
Went into gladiator
We
style.
toughened up. We toughened up.
So, but that's fun, and being competitive is part of it, right?
Yes.
And I think to play this sport, especially baseball,
without a doubt,
you have to be competitive, and you have to have extreme determination with it. Like, if you fail 7 times out of 10, you're just going to crumble if you don't. Right? That competitive nature is like, I'm going to do this until I figure it out. Right? I'm going to take 100 swings. I don't care if all 100 suck. I'm going to get it on my 101st, right? And we're going to figure it out.
But it's it's a lot like golf, right? You go out there and struggle on 18, hit a nice drive, just I'm back. I'm enough to come back. But again, like you're saying, I mean, just that competitive fire it's so important just to push yourself, right? Because it's one thing that you may not accept as a teenager, because there's a lot of ego within teenagers, right? And you're too cool for everything and all that, just growing up as you're kind of developing in these sports. But just that desire to push yourself to be better. And that's probably one of my favorite things about baseball is you never have it figured out. It's as much as there's the game and the game within the game, there's a lot of that game within yourself, right? And I'm trying to master my craft, but then I got to go out, and compete on the field. And as much as I can be the best at hitting the ball off a tee, it's not moving, getting the front flips and it's moving a little bit. And then, as you start progressing through levels and the ball's starting to come faster, it's starting to move a little bit more. Stuff's getting a little crazier, game's moving faster, ground balls, fly balls, ball speed off the bat, like everything is just speed. And so just that desire and that fire to just continue to grind with it and continue to get better, because you can always get better.
Absolutely. And it's funny you say that, because I was talking to the guys last night about how you have to have two personalities almost. It's like player one is a perfectionist. They're in the facility, in the cage, when they're working, that everything's got to be perfect for them. And they're working on their mechanics, and they don't care about the result too much. They care more about how they're moving and how they're kind of doing stuff with their weaknesses, right? So if outside pitches are their weakness, they're setting that tee up way outside, and they're sitting there and trying to hit it until they can do it, 10 out of 10 times or whatever, and then they'll go to front toss. And so that's player one. And player two is the guy that's just out on the field, and he's subconsciously playing, He's just being on time. He's just living in the moment. He's just reacting, right? And you can't have player two without player one, right? If you don't put in the work, then player two is now going to have to think about all the mechanics, because he's not at the level of the game, right?
Well, I thought that, again, we were so fortunate growing up in, the environment and the group that we did, because it was like, we all were such perfectionists in that sense. Like, we had that player one, right? We had that time in the cage, especially with like Leighton and some of those just technical, detail-oriented coaches that we grew up with. But then, like, we almost developed our player two in our wiffle ball games, right? We weren't thinking about anything else. You were trying to believe Vladimir Guerrero and hit the bounce ball or hit the high ball and just get out there and react and play and have that flow and have that fun with it. So we almost kind of just got it by
the way we grew up,
by having fun, and then getting in there and dialing in our work, dialing in those details. But it's in that too. I think that I always told our guys, like player one, that perfectionist, that one that's you got to be, critical of yourself, right? You got to be in there and have a lot of accountability, have a lot of, this is where. Again, like put your ego to the side and put that teenage bravado to the side, and have that kind of, this is what I need to get better at. I'm struggling with this, I can't hit this breaking ball. I can't do whatever this is, right? And then there's that piece to it that player two with the feel and flow is a little bit more forgiving. Because in this game, as much as you fail, you have to be able to forgive yourself, but you can't forget it, right? You got to go home and be like, all right, this, sometimes pitcher's going to get me. He might dot 3 balls that just, hey, you won that at bat, right? But a lot of times it's in my control, right? And so figuring out that like forgiveness with accountability, that forgiveness with, I'm going to get in there and fix those things so they don't happen again. I'm going to get in there and fix it. So now I'm getting back to mastering my craft. And it's the way that, again, those player 1 and player 2s mesh so well. And those two different kind of personalities that you have mesh so well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And like you said, growing up with that group, that Rocky, like we won 4 state championships, right? And I think always having a guy that was maybe better than us helped with that, right? So it's like everybody's pushing to compete with each other. And it's like, okay, Burnsy's excelling a little bit at this, so now I got to get there, right? Now AK's selling at this, so I got to get there, right? And so you're constantly pushing to be better. It's not just, okay, let's just hit the ball and let's be, you know, complacent. Because, you know, going from Rocky to Stanford, it's a big jump, right? Oh, and if you're not pushing yourself, then you're not going to get there. So talk about that a little bit, that jump from kind of high school to Stanford, right?
Yeah, and when I think that, like you're saying, that it was funny when we were growing up. I don't know if funny is the right word, but I'm going to say funny for the sake of the argument. That, you know, it was funny because, like you're saying, there was so much competition and so much talent that, like, there was never a point when any one of us was the best, I would say. I mean, it was, you know, Burnsy's doing it now, Gonzo's doing it now, you know, I'm doing it now, Petey, Al, whatever, you know, all these guys. And just that, like, constant desire to push yourself. I mean, I think it was such a huge thing to develop that work ethic, right? It's such a huge thing to just develop that fire. And at the same time, it was such a good thing to keep yourself humbled, right? Keep yourself grounded, because, you know, the two things that I think that I saw in the transition the most of individuals who failed, in the sense, you know, of just kind of went away from it or lost their passion or didn't see success or didn't see the field or whatever it was, right? Were the people that, like you're saying, went through were just going through the motions, didn't have that same sense of fire, right? And once you get to the college level, it's not a fun hobby anymore. It's a job, right? I mean, it's, you know, I played football, basketball, and baseball all the way through my senior year of high school. So my freshman year of college, I'm playing baseball 7 days a week, 300 days, you know, pretty much every, you know,
it's 30,
maybe a month hours, or something,
right?
Maybe a month off, you know, in September or August or something. But yeah, we show up to fall ball first day and it's, hey, we got weights in the morning, you got class after that, then we're practicing from 2 to 6, you know, or whatever it is. I mean, it's a job, right? So just not that ability to lose that fire and just kind of go through the motions. I mean, you get exposed very quickly, right? And then at the same time, you know, that element that we had of the consistently being humbled, I would say, you know, I'm watching Burnsy take VP like, man, how is this guy doing? But, you know, some of those things, right? And Burnsy, you know, Burnsy, Petey, and Marco won Gatorade Player of the Year 3 years in a row, you know, just seeing that, you know, because when you go, like when I went from Rocky to Stanford, I mean, my freshman year at Stanford, I mean, we faced Garrett Cole, Trevor Bauer, Sonny Gray, you know, I mean, my sophomore year, we faced, it was 8 of the top 20 draft picks. Yeah. So we're going from, you know, seeing 70s and 80s, maybe, you know, getting maybe one guy pushing, bumping 90, you know, Creek and Eric Anderson and all those guys, they were studs, right? But, you know, seeing those guys it was like an exception, not the rule. Yeah. When, you know, the rule for us was 80 to 82, you know, decent little spinner. But then, you know, getting to college and, now, you know, Mark Appel's on my team. I'm facing Mark Appel goes 1-1, you know, in the draft. Like I'm seeing 100, I'm seeing Garrett Cole, I'm seeing Sonny Gray. And so, you know, that was kind of the second reason why I saw a lot of people struggle or even give up the sport, was because they'd never been humbled in a sense, right? Especially when you go to a place, you know, you go to these higher levels, right? You go to not even Stanford, but Stanford, you know, Stanford, everybody on my Stanford team was the best player on their team, was the best player in their state, whatever, in their school district, you know? So now you're just a normal guy. You're not the stud anymore. You know, that was, so like I can't even remember what it was, but it was something like my senior year of high school. I think I hit, it was like 540, 530 batting average, Freshman year, I hit 206.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't take that mental, I mean, on top of now I'm playing baseball year round, on top of I'm going from being one of the dudes winning state championships to hitting 206 to struggling, right? So just that element of staying grounded, knowing that you're not the best player out there, right? Or you might be, and having that belief, right? It's a good belief to have, right? But at the same time, like just merging those two players, those two opportunities of competitive fire, competitive growth, and while I'm still being grounded, right? Kind of like we were talking about with player 1 and player 2, like perfectionist, accountable, I'm going to be hard on myself, but player 2 is a little more flowy, feeling the game, going with the rhythm of the game, being a little bit more forgiving to myself, not taking my at-bats to the field, whatever the case is. I mean, there's so much within that evolution as you continue to climb those levels.
Yeah. It's, 7% go to college, right? So everybody at that next level, it was one of the best players on their high school team.
Yes.
And then from college pro, it's even more whittled down, right? So
well, and that's
constantly
those pro teams. I mean, that's a whole different level. That's everybody is like college teams. You get to college, and college teams are. Yeah, it's the best of the best. And, guys that I played with at Stanford had been drafted out of high school and got offered millions of dollars and turned it down and set combine records. And it's like, whoa, Then you go to pro ball, and now it's, college too with it is a little bit more national, right? Yeah. Then you get into pro ball, and now you're playing with the best players in the world. Yeah. I got to pro ball, and there's, I was 21, 22. There's that, 16, 18-year-old kids from Latin America that are way better than me. It's like, okay, now it's, it's a worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah, exactly.
So, there's a lot in those transitions, and there's a lot climbing up it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, and then, just the everyday grind, too, from each level that you go. It's like from high school to college, you maybe go from 20 hours to 35, 40 hours, and then once you get to pro, you're going from 35, 40 hours to 45, 50 hours a week, right?
And then, it's a job, right? Then it's a real job. But that's, that's with college, there's a lot of natural breaks, natural downtime, right? There's a lot of time to decompress, time to kind of get away, like release, right? Because you have class, you have homework, you have
and football
but you get to come home for breaks, and you get to there's the winter break. You get to come home and be with your family, and you get to go to football games and tailgate or go to basketball games, and so you have these natural relief points where you can kind of get away, because that's a powerful thing too, right? Once you get to pro ball, I mean, you get the off season, but like in the off season, my first year I went to Instruct, so all October, November I'm down in Florida at spring training. I went to mini camp, so the month before spring training, so I got, a month or two off. But in that month or two, that's my job. I need to keep my job. And again, like we were talking about, you're playing against worldwide sensations. I need to keep my job. So I'm going to go to the field every single day. I'm going to hit, I'm going to lift, I'm going to throw every single day. So there's just not as much of that kind of natural breakaway. And then, too, another thing that was different for me just in my transition was, Stanford it's very nice. You're flying on planes. Our buses were super nice. We had TVs in our buses. We're staying in embassy suites and staying in, nice hotels. And, we traveled pretty dang nice for, a college team, right? I mean, so, from high school, you're riding in school buses, but, you're going to Denver or Grand Junction at the farthest, or Omaha, or, some of these places that are just a few hours away. And then, it's with your parents or your buddies, and you're coming right back home. College, you get to, and now, we were flying in planes, we were getting these big charter buses going to Vandy and Florida State, and, staying in some nice places. And then you get to pro ball, there's no more planes until you get to AAA.
Until you get to the big.
There's no more planes, it's buses. And these buses weren't the same as the ones we had at Stanford with the leather seats and the TVs. And, you're not staying at embassy suites anymore, and you're not, it's the time commitment goes up. That part of it comes in, and then two, I mean, again with those natural breaks, like at Stanford, we played Tuesday game, Thursday you'd fly to Washington and play a 3-game series till Sunday night, fly back home. You're home. Once you get to pro ball, it's
every day.
It's 140 games in 150 days. So that bus is your home. That's your game finishes at
your
10
day
p.m.
Off is a drive to wherever you're playing next.
Game finishes at 10 p.m. Everybody shower, get dressed. Bus leaves at midnight. You drive to Bowling Green, Kentucky. It's a 10-hour drive. You get into the hotel at 10 a.m. Go put your stuff down. Bus leaves at 2 for BP. You're right back at it. So that kind of that constant stuff again from. The physical side is tough, right? I mean, the physical side is a lot on your body. It's a lot on your body, but by far and away harder is that mental side.
Yeah.
And just that grind and that sticking with it. And in pro ball, you don't practice.
No.
You practice is the game.
You
don't have time to. I mean, unless
3-4 weeks of spring training. That's about it.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, but that's your practice time is really. I mean, you show up at 2 games that. 7, you show up at 2 and
get your pregame
get your work in, do some, little instructional work, do some defensive work, do some throwing, get some early work in the cage, then, but again, at that point, I mean, it's that time commitment because the pressures of it being your job and knowing that, at any moment, this job, this dream can be taken away from you, I mean, it happens a lot too, where I saw guys get pulled off the bus and released. It can happen quickly. You can get, and I was fortunate too, I guess, in my career that I didn't get called up a lot, but you look at some of those guys, and these guys like Cole Anderson, or I was talking to Mark Appel, and he was like, sometimes you're in a place for a month, then you get called up, then you get sent back down, then you get called up, then you go up and again. So you're bouncing all over the country trying to manage your emotions of this job. Am I going to make it to the big leagues? Am I going to lose my job? Am I going to get told my time is up? So now you're battling all those as well as just trying to get out there and facing the greatest players in the world.
I think it's so important to understand living in the moment and just trusting the day to day, right?
Yes.
So I talked about, how in our last episode we talked about 20,000 hours or 25,000 hours or whatever.
Yes.
But you can't focus on the 25,000 hours.
No.
You got to focus on whatever hour you're at. If you're at 9,000 hours, then focus on 9,001, right?
Yes.
Because if you're looking at 20,000 hours, you're never going to get there.
No.
Right? You're going to be done before it. And you got to lock in on your day-to-day tasks that you got to get done, okay? So I need 3 hours today to reach my goal, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to lock in for an hour of lifting. I'm going to get after it. I'm going to stay locked in. I'm going to push my body, and then I need an hour of hitting, okay? I'm going to get locked in for that. Because if I'm focusing on, say, hitting while I'm lifting, then you're not getting the most out of your training, right?
No.
You got to lock in for that.
Yes.
And then that's going to also help you in that moment too.
Yes.
Because it's like if you're focusing on, okay, I got bottom 9, runner on second here, and I got to get a base hit, and all I'm focused on is that hit and that goal, you're probably not going to get it, right?
Yeah.
And you have guys like Bryce Harper talk about he's grateful for it. It's like it's a blessing to be in there.
Yes.
If I strike out, so what?
Yes.
If I get a hit, so what? Right?
Yes.
I'm just thankful that I have this opportunity.
Yes.
Right? And so I think that's huge.
Yes. Well, it's so, I mean, just like you're saying, I think that too many people get focused in that 20,000 hours, right? And if you are too focused in that 20,000 hours, more than likely, you're going to spend your entire life frustrated because you're not where you want to be.
Exactly.
And so you're going to give it up before you even get there, right? Because you're just so frustrated. Well, I should be, I need to be as a sophomore, the starting center fielder on the varsity team. Once I get to college, now I need to be the starter. I need to get drafted. Or once I get drafted, now why am I not in the big leagues? I need to be in the big leagues, right? So you spend your whole career being frustrated. And frustration is bad in the game of baseball, right? Emotions like that are bad in the game of baseball. And so, you never truly get the best out of yourself because you're just in that environment, right? But yeah, so you spend your whole life frustrating, and you spend your whole life kind of being too hard on yourself in a sense, right? And that's where, you're talking about like Bryce Harper and some of these guys that are so grateful for every moment because they also have that perspective, right? Yeah. And a lot of times younger athletes don't have that perspective. In Major League Baseball, you get 500 at-bats a year, 600 at-bats a year?
Yeah.
If you strike out once, yeah, it's frustrating. But you got 599 more at-bats.
Exactly.
It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? Yeah. And I think that, too, especially when you talk about a game that's as feel-based as baseball.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a game that, when I was working with hitters and, you go from here with your hands to here, it feels like you're like this, right? So just any little adjustment, any little kind of tinkering around you're doing with the swing, or if you're chopping at the ball, it's like, feel like you're going to hit the ball straight up, oh my gosh, that actually worked out perfectly, but it's,
like that feeling, and you're probably going to be
perfect,
trouble,
So it's especially a game that's so feel-based, right, is these little changes over the course of time are going to lead to those bigger results, right? And it's not, I need to be there today, or I need to be there tomorrow. Like tomorrow, I don't need to go for 4 bombs, right? Yeah. I need to focus on these slight adjustments, and it might feel weird, and I might struggle at first. I mean, I saw that so many times in my career that, these little swing adjustments that took, a couple of weeks to really get fully ingrained, because then the emotions of the game come. Now you're worried about, 3-0 count, let's, or 0-2 again, or, whatever. There's just the nature of the game that comes with it. But sometimes these little swing changes, if they took a week or two to stick, that week or two is going to be tough. But coming out of that, I'm going to be so much better, right? And I'm going to be consistently more better. And that it's kind of like you're saying, I mean, but if you spend your whole life thinking about those moments or that time, and it has to come, you're just rushing life. You're rushing the experience of it, and you're going to be constantly disappointed. Yes. And you're going to be constantly too hard on yourself, too negative. And that stuff, not only is very detrimental to your own performance, it's contagious. Yes. Baseball's contagious. You see it a lot of times in basketball when feed the hot hand, or someone starts, basketball's a game of runs, right? So someone gets on an 8-0 run. That's why coach calls timeout, break the momentum. Baseball, same way. If someone's, throwing stuff in the dugout, crying, yelling, cussing everybody out, it's contagious. Same thing if you're going well, it's contagious, right? But so not only is that kind of stuff of looking to that, and trying to get there, and why am I not here yet, or why am I not trying to do this, or I need to be there, it's very detrimental to yourself, and it's very detrimental to your team. And if you're being detrimental to the team, you think coach is going to play you. No. Yeah. So now, it's just this big snowball, right? Whereas you can make it, like you're saying, focus on, I'm going to grind for an hour on lifting, then I'm going to grind for an hour in the cage, or whatever it is. Now, other people might see it. Other people might catch on. Like, hey, what are you doing? Like, I'm going to come in there and let's get it together. Like, so there's it's very easy to kind of snowball one way, and it's tougher, but it's better to snowball in that other way of these little steps, these little consistent tweaks over the course of time are going to lead to long-term results. And that's a much better way to look at it, as hard as it is in the moment.
Oh, yeah. It's hard. You want to take some swings here?
Oh, man.
Get loose a little.
You want to talk about humbling again?